help is when I'm ocean waves.
Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Langley coach Bo Amato, who once again has led his Langley team into the state tournament for a quarterfinal game tomorrow night at Hayfield, Tuesday night. Coach, congratulations and thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Julian. Thank you very much.
Oh, of course. Well, last year, Washington and Liberty and Yorktown dominated the regular season. They were undefeated. I think one tie. They were first and second all year. Your Langley team kind of flew below the radar. They graduated. Phil Boganoff the year before, a great striker, was at Stanford now. And I don't think much was expected from Langley that year. And then by the end of the season, you guys were dominant and you were the best team in the area. Billy O got hot, Cole Fisher, Dante. Your team just came around. You were dominant. How would you compare last year's Langley team to this year's Langley team that's got 7 losses, but just somehow keeps finding a way to advance?
They're two very different teams, and that's the beauty of high school football. Unless every year it's very different, and it's you really can't compare. There's lots of similarities in many regards. On our day, this team is very good defensively. I think if you don't concede goals, you have a great chance to be successful. So, but we've definitely conceded probably more penalties than anybody else at this present moment in time. So fingers crossed we don't do that. But if we don't give them away, we're difficult to beat. And I think most teams try to be difficult to beat. We're not prolific in front of goal. We have moments where we can be very dangerous, and then unfortunately we don't score. I think we've scored 29 and conceded 28. So when I tell you we're pretty good defensively, you're probably going to have plenty of people laugh at that. There's moments in time where we're really good, but we have a few mishaps, so to speak.
Somebody would have told you before the season or even mid-season that you'd be in the state tournament. Would that have surprised you?
No, to be honest. We've got a few special players, in my opinion, and a few good guys. There's an expression, need 1 or 2 piano players and a bunch of piano movers. When I played the game, now everybody wants to be a piano player. But in my opinion, the game really requires a lot of hard work to be successful. And I think sometimes when you watch the game on TV, you don't realize how hard those players are working. If you listen to the commentary of the Man United versus Man City FA Cup final, you hear a lot of ex-Man United players saying that Man City bullied Manchester United over the weekend, like were too manly for them, which doesn't make any sense when you're comparing men and men. But the reality is that, that's a big part of the game. And that's the way I grew up. And I wasn't always the one that was the most aggressive kid. I was getting given a hard time by my teammates for not pulling my weight, and the reality is you kind of learned, otherwise you didn't play. So if you've got 2 equal teams with the same amount of talent, if one's going to outwork and outcompete, I can tell you which one's going to win every time.
Yeah, you grew up in England, and it's hard to become a good soccer player when you grow up with such a depressed soccer background. So when you talk about your team this year, I've seen you guys play at least 7-8 times. Center back core. I think Julian and Ryan are one of the core of your team is your center backs. But your captains and your heart and soul of your team, without question, are Ryan Ronkovich. Hope I pronounced his name wrong, right? And Aiden Connolly, your 2 co-captains, 2 amazing physical players, come to play every night, would die for the shirt. Talk about those 2 captains and what they've meant to your team.
You pretty much hit the nail on the head. They both work extremely hard. Aiden sacrifices his body and his energy. Typically after games, it's difficult for him. Frankly, there's a number of them. Evan, Jeffrey, Ryan. It's difficult for them to walk after a game because they really leave it all on the field. So, and I said to them one game after they played, I said, imagine if when you played club, you played every club game like that. Imagine how good you would have been. Imagine how good your club team would have been. So, those 2, they lead by example. And and some of the underclassmen have definitely latched on and joined in. I think that will make them better football players for themselves, better footballers for their teams, and better footballers for us, our high school team as well. So I think we had that leadership last year. Those two guys were a big part of the team last year. Aiden was obviously an all-Met player, and Ryan was an unsung hero, but a really, really good player on that team last year that wouldn't have won without him. And he's carried on that attitude and ability this year as well. And then Jeffrey has missed 2 years because of an ACL surgery. And Evan O'Neill's been a very good player for us on multiple positions all over the field. A natural right back for his ECNL club, but has played multiple positions for us and was instrumental in the comeback against South Lakes. That we looked like we were down and out 3-1 with 12 minutes to go, and we had a bit of fortune with our hard work and skill and blah blah blah. Got lucky.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys use this term in England, but you guys, I think you could be called a sandbagger in America, in that you guys aren't trying during the regular season, and you realize in some regard the regular season is kind of meaningless. It's all about the postseason in American football. Do you think it's fair to call you a sandbagger, Coach?
No, I'm probably the opposite. To be honest with you, I really try to win every game I ever play in everything I do in life. Even to the point where when my son was playing chess when he was 7 or 8 years of age, he could beat me. I had to download an app to cheat and beat him, and he caught me. I just hate losing everything. I've broken numerous PlayStation control pads over the years. And I think winning is a virus. If you catch the virus, you want to win and you hate to lose. So we try to win every game. I think we got blown out in one game this year. We lost to Woodson at home. Everything they hit went in, and everything we did that went wrong. So we had a really bad game. And credit to them, they played very well. But for the most part, even the games we've lost, we could have won them. So we're sitting at, I think, like you said, 10-7-2. But we could easily be 7-10, or we could easily be 13-1 or something like that. So we try to win every game. Yeah, I mean, I don't get as emotional in some games as other games, and I think it's in, sometimes I coach, I'm pretty vocal, and some people probably think he's out of his mind, but the reality is when I played, everybody on the field talked to that level. If kids go and watch a Caps game or a Washington Wizards game, whatever they call it, and you could hear the players talking on the court or the rink or on a football pitch at DC United, you'd be amazed at how much talking takes place on the field from all players, regardless of whether they're on the ball or around the ball. There's lots of gibbering going on and communication. But our players, and I can't really repeat some of the things that were said to me as a young player by some of my older captains when I was younger, because it's kind of inappropriate. But I was told to deliver, otherwise they wanted me off the pitch. Yeah, and they would tell the coach to take me off. So pretty simple.
And we're not going to repeat some of the things you said to your players.
No. What do you mean it was to me? I'm nice.
So Coach, you mentioned that you're a 10-7-2, 10 wins, 7 losses and 2 ties. But in elimination games this year, you're 3-0. You've beaten 3 teams, 3 good teams when everything was on the line, and a loss would have ended your season. You beat Washington and Liberty on the road on a warm day. A very solid team. In the regional tournament, you beat South Lakes, as you said. You came from 3-1 down late, and you won that game. I believe you won that game in regulation, and then you beat Centerville, and against one of your old, very talented midfielders. It was key last year, and you guys went in the state final. A true midfield creator on that team, Carlos Calderon. What is it about this team when you face elimination? Something happens and they play better. Do you ever lose faith when they're down?
No, just against my mentality, and I think it's against all the players' mentality. I mean, why should we give up until the final whistle goes? Even in the game against Herndon, which wasn't an elimination game, but for us it was important. We wanted to try and be number 1 seed. It's nice to win the region. Herndon played, well. They had a good game. Congratulations to them, and good luck to them in the tournament. But even in that game, when it was 2-1, and a minute to go, we threw the kitchen sink and or we'd thrown the kitchen sink and gave up a third. But even after that, there was not one player gave up. They were still driving to get the ball forward. And I looked at one of my assistant coaches and said, unbelievable, unbelievable. I mean, I was happy with them to, because we weren't going to get knocked out. I didn't want anybody to get injured, and still they were driving to get forward and creating half chances late in the game. It's a really good attribute. And you mentioned Philip, and there's other players that played from years ago, and this probably started 10 years ago with some of the attitude that started in the school, and it sort of rubbed off, and it stayed with the program. And that's because of the players that have been in our program, not even last year, teams before, because it's a tradition. And the school is like all schools, they all have websites that games can be watched, and our school tracks that people move all over the country. We find out that people are watching some of our games in California and foreign countries, wherever they end up going to work. They still look at their high school scores to see how they're doing. So I think maybe that carries a bit of weight. Obviously, we have a little trophy room, has all the trophies, pictures of previous teams, jerseys of previous teams. And I think it's a bit of a tradition that the previous players have started, and this current group are driving on. And the JV team, and I don't really like to use JV team back home, it's first, second team. Our second team has watched us play. Our second team did really well this year, so next year looks bright. And some of the kids have come up to be part of the run-in, and I'm a little bit intense, but if you want to play, there's only one team there's two teams in the school. If you want to play, you need to find a way to step on this perch of the ladder, and then you can produce. So, I mean, I think it's tradition.
Well, the other day, I think it's easy to look at Langley and say they play very direct. I think your Patriots, your co-Patriots in England will call you Route One. But the other day we were talking on the phone. You said it's about playing the ball into the channels, which for us Americans we have no idea what that means. But the way Chandler describes it is Langley is going to put 15, 20, 25 balls into the box. How are you going to stop every one of those balls from going into the goal? So in his mind, you're going to be hard to stop. If you can keep the other team from scoring, how are they going to stop you from getting one or two of those Ryan throws, or you've got very good set piece takers and a great finisher in Hayden? How are they going to stop all those balls from going into the back of the goal?
Well, I think the reality is you get this late in a tournament and this many teams left. All teams have done a very good job to get this far. All teams have probably had a little bit of an element of luck at some point as well, because you kind of have to have a little bit of luck. You say channels and Route One. If a team's going to press us, you need to be really careful playing out the back, because I've seen professional players give the ball away under duress. So obviously youth players will do the same thing. So if they're putting you under pressure, then obviously you're playing behind. If they're going to sit off, then you can't play them behind. So I mean, a lot of people, you have to play as a player. If they're going to give you something, take it. Right? Why would you play if a team's putting you under pressure? When I've seen professional teams like Barcelona and other teams like Villarreal play out of pressure, but there's times when we can, but there's times when we're not good enough, and that's okay, because we're still young kids growing. No one's getting paid to play, so you can't expect everybody to be a superstar at a young age. And then obviously, in youth soccer, a big part of development is learning to play under duress. So you should play in those situations, but unfortunately, high school is well, I'd say unfortunately, it's lovely because it's all about winning. Right? It's not about anything else. Right? Yeah, it's about playing and having fun, but ultimately, it's about winning, because they stick banners on schools all over the country that says you won. It's not. I haven't seen a banner yet at a school. You lost. You lost. You lost. You lost. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for participating. It doesn't exist, right? Thank goodness. I know in other realms of the nation we want to go that way, but thank goodness it hasn't destroyed the sport that I love yet. But the reality is, people remember who wins, and trust me, we've lost in regional semi-finals, we've lost in regional finals, we've lost in state quarterfinals before. So we've definitely had some bumps, and we're just very fortunate. Hayfield are extremely good. Dricky's a great guy, good coach, and I saw his interview the other day. It's a shame I'm going to be on the other side. Maybe I'll phone him during the game and have a chat, because I will miss talking to him. But it's at the end of the day, it's two teams that want to win, and both will probably play reasonably well on the day. One team may play better than the other team. One team may have a bad game. You never know. I mean, a golfer, professional golfer, doesn't go out and shoot 68 4 days in a row because he's a professional golfer. He may wake up, he may have a bad night of sleep one day, wake up in a bit of discomfort or not quite right, and he shoots a 73. The next day he shoots a 62. No one knows why, but they're professional golfers. They're professional golfers, and they can't play the same way every day. So why do we expect youth players to play the same way every day? We cannot. And there's lots going on in the young mind, not just football. There's lots going on about their life, where their future's going to take, and worry things could be going on at home, health of pets, health of family, blah blah blah. So,
one thing about high school soccer is that when you get a team in March, maybe late February, there's a lot of moving pieces. You got new kids coming in, you got kids who play different positions, you got kids who are great, but you got too many midfielders, you got to play the right back. But by May and June, teams have their character, and it's amazing how much after 15, 20 games they develop, and they're completely different teams than they were at the beginning of the year. All teams, especially the good teams. So how would you characterize Hayfield now? When you think about them, someone asks you as a coach, I'm playing Hayfield. How would you describe Hayfield in terms of how they play soccer?
Well, I didn't go to watch them play like Ricky said I did, but I know people that were there. I know that we played Lewis last year. I said at the beginning of the year, I think this is a year of parity, and I think we're now seeing that. I understand they've got a few good players, a big centre back, a good defensive midfielder that plays well, number 4 scores all their goals, but it all means nothing. It means nothing because people don't play the same way every game. I mean, we've had games where I expect certain players to play a certain way, and they just have a bad game, and that's okay. I mean, the best coaching advice I ever had in my entire life, all the coaches I was ever around, at the end of the day, one coach said to me one thing that stuck with me for the rest of my playing career, and it sort of made a difference. I obviously didn't make a great difference because I got released, but the reality is it wasn't good enough. There's the door, Amato. Don't let it hit you in the arse on the way out. But the reality is, sometimes you're nervous, sometimes you're not playing well. If you just work harder, that little bit harder, you'll be in that little bit more extra space when you receive the ball, which gives you that millisecond of more time on the ball to make a better decision, a better pass, and you will be more successful, and then you will settle down and play better. So sometimes you see players go into funks and they're playing badly and they sulk and they stand still. They're doing the worst thing possible. The worst thing is not going to help them. And if you think about baseball players, like they get paid all that money to hit the ball 28% of the time.
Yeah.
Right? 28%. So they're useless 72%. And they're getting paid $10 million a year. Let me have that job, please. I'll swing away. I mean, maybe I won't get 20. So the reality is, and you see professional football players miss wide open goals and they're laughing afterwards, because the reality is they can let it go in and let it go out without affecting them play. But when you see a youth player or a professional player that doesn't really make it, they let all this tension and anger work up inside them, and it's only going to affect the next time they receive the ball. So the best advice I ever had was from that coach. And if we can accomplish that tomorrow, then we'll be okay.
Well, Coach, it's too bad you didn't try cricket at home. Maybe you could have been one of these rich, fabulous cricket players. So the game tomorrow is at Langley. I mean, is at Hayfield. It's a road game. Does that make a difference at this part of the season? The fact that you're going to Hayfield instead of home at Langley?
I mean, it's nice to play at home because the crowd and dressing room, et cetera, but the reality is we've actually played better on the road this year. So maybe it's wearing white. It's a bit cooler. I don't know. So the kids, the guys, they're happy to play away. Maybe they just have to get a yellow bus with slightly better suspension for the hour drive, because my back can't take it, but they seem to have a good time playing music and having a laugh, getting a nap. So, and frankly, I think the more time you spend together, you bond together. So maybe the road games have been good for us.
Yeah. Well, in the classic American movie, basketball movie Hoosiers, which chronicles a fictional team's run into the basketball state tournament in Indiana, the last game, the coach says, "Well, guys, the time for inspirational and motivational speeches is behind us. You've already heard all my speeches. Do you have anything new for your lads tomorrow night?" Or is it-
I'm sure some verbal diarrhea may come out of my mouth at the 87th hour, but overall, I'm really proud of them. No matter the result, obviously we want to win, they want to win, I want to win, their parents want to win, the school wants to win. some of the old boys are wanting to win. I'm sure some of the kids at Cooper and other schools that feed into us have an interest and may want them to win. But the beauty of this game is any team on any given day can win. And case in point, was it Morocco in the semi-finals of the World Cup final? It's one of the few sports that has that. I mean, apparently you have that going on in basketball right now. I'm not really paying attention, but apparently the Miami Heat are similar. But you know, at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. I mean, we have a few things up our sleeve we may try tomorrow, and maybe we won't. But you know, hopefully, all I hope is that it's a close game, and both teams can leave there with their head held high. And the reality is, regardless of the result, both teams should do that either way because they've had a great year. Fingers crossed we can keep going. It would be lovely to repeat, but obviously one game at a time. And if we lose, then I would like Hayfield to go on. If we win, then hopefully we get another bite at Herndon. We played them twice, conceded 3 penalties against them, I think, and 1 goal in the run of game. But we'll see. I mean, I can't. I'm proud no matter what. So we'll see how it happens.
Yeah, it's a team to be proud of. Great kids, play hard, 100%. Not the most talented team you'll ever see, but they play as hard as any team that you see. Speaking of old players, I had great chats with Ona and Amir at the last game. Came up to me and said hi. Great kids, and they're very proud of the team as well. So I hope everyone listening will go support these teams tomorrow night. It's, I believe, 7:00, Coach, at Hayfield. I think there's another game. I believe Lewis is traveling to Herndon tomorrow night at 7:00 as well.
That'll be a good game as well.
Yeah, good game as well. So everyone should come support these great teams, coaches. It's been a great season, and the winner gets a date, I believe, with maybe even Kellum, who's the top-rated team in the state, which would be in the semifinals on Friday. So anyway, Coach, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Tell the boys before training that I said hey, and best of luck tomorrow night.
Have a lovely summer. Thanks ever so much, Julian. I really appreciate it. Take care, sir.
It was great, Coach. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.
All right, buddy.
Bye.